You're a Mark fan now. That's how it works.
I remember reading somewhere before, part of Philip K. Dick's charm was his hero was always an everyman. It's not like the embodiment of the pinnacle of humanity. It's like a garbage man or a repairman or a coffee machine salesman. And I was like, yeah, that's what I want Frank to be. He's just going to be a normal Joe who gets dragged into this world.
Yeah, you need to be relatable for sure, because I can't stand it when you have the term. I mean, I wanted to say the word either Mary Sue or Ubermensch.
John Doe.
John Doe. No, because that's just a sort of anonymous person, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, and a classic example maybe is Equilibrium. Christian Bale in Equilibrium, not one scratch on him throughout the whole movie when he's fighting like 20 people.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? Come on. Kurt Wimmer, the director's like, well, I don't like my protagonist to get hurt. So it's like, well, that's why your movies fail and you're just a fucking screenwriter now. So that's a bit harsh, I know, but he broke my heart. He wrote the script to Total Recall remake and ruined it, and did the same thing with Point Break.
Oh, is he behind the new Point Break? I've never seen it. I've refused to watch it.
He's the screenwriter behind it.
I refuse to watch it. I like that. I kind of refused to watch the new Total Recall, but I got roped into it by this man. I mean, it isn't like tremendously bad, but it's just like it shits all over the original.
It really does shit all over the original.
Well,
in a bad way, not a good way.
The story of Kurt Wimmer was that he seemed like he was very promising up and coming director, and he did Equilibrium, which was it was okay because it kind of off the back of the Matrix hype, because it came out like a couple of years later.
Equilibrium is an underrated one.
Yeah, it's all right, and it was good. He wrote and directed it, and then Ultraviolet came out, which I hadn't seen, with Mila Djokovic, and apparently it's god awful, right? I was watching it. There's a series on YouTube called VFX Artists React to good and bad CGI, and one of them happened to be on one episode was Ultraviolet, and there were scenes in it that were god awful in terms of CGI, physics just not being obeyed, and they were ripping it to shreds. So that's the only bit of Ultraviolet I've seen, and that film bombed, and after that he hasn't been a director ever since. Went on to be a screenwriter for Total Recall 2012 and Point Break 2016.
Title film with dog shit as well.
Shameful. I went to the cinema to see Total Recall 2012, and yeah, I was disappointed. I like the world building. I kind of thought it was a cool little premise with the fall, where they go down to Australia and like the gravity changes and all that. But other than that, it was shite. The original Total Recall, on the other hand, was amazing. Paul Verhoeven, his little European satire is injected in there. Works really well.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of the remakes these days, particularly for the older stuff. It's almost like they just want to remake them to get the special effects in, and then kind of hope the story then is tied together. And Total Recall, the remake one, if they almost just done a shot by shot with updated special effects, people probably would have loved it. Like, forget the fact that like it's verbatim a copy, updated special effects, they would have loved it. But the fact that it was just like trying to be its own fucking thing altogether, and then let's tag on Total Recall. It's like the Italian Job, the remake of the Italian Job. It's a good heist movie with Mark Wahlberg and Ed Norton, but like it didn't have to be called the Italian Job in any stretch of the imagination. It was just a movie with minis, and they say that they did a job in Italy, and they're like, we're going to do it like the Italian Job, and it's like, just shut the fuck up right now.
I heard that Edward Norton was contractually obliged to be in that movie. That's why he's so fucking miserable.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
he says that a lot about a lot of his movies, though. I think if a film does shite, he's like, I was contractually obliged to do it. When really, it was a shitty film, Edward.
I do admire him, but I do get the hint that he's very controlling when it comes to the projects. There was a film that came out in 1998 called American History X, directed by Tony Kaye, and Edward Norton was like, no. In the end, Edward Norton took over the editing process and made it his own, and Tony Kaye tried to discredit himself by using the Alan Smithy pseudonym.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was disastrous. Same thing with the Incredible Hulk. Edward Norton tried to control the project, but Marvel were like, no, we've got our own kind of bigger plot going on, so no. And that's why he didn't come back, and that's why Mark Ruffalo was replaced.
That's one good cause, though. Mark Ruffalo's a beastie Hulk.
It would have been, I do like Mark Ruffalo. It would have been interesting to see Edward Norton be in the MCU in that sense with the Avengers and all that. Would have been cool to see that, but If he's been a control freak, fucking.
Yeah, imagine Tobey Maguire as
Spider-Man.
in MCU.
He would have been like 40 by then.
That's what I'm saying.
It's interesting.
He's meant to be coming back for the next one as well, the next Spider-Man.
We haven't discussed this yet. I don't know what I feel about that. I don't think it's happening. I think it's like before The Rise of Skywalker came out and the hype was like, oh, Hayden's coming back and all these characters, and they didn't. It was just
you reckon about smokescreen?
Yeah, I think so. Why would Toby and Andrew come back? That don't make sense.
Multiverse.
Multiverse, yeah.
You've got Alfred Molina as Dr. Octopus coming back, so that's been confirmed.
Yeah, but he died in Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, but it's the joys of the multiverse. He doesn't have to be the same version.
Okay. I'm not too keyed into the multiverse, so
they're de-aging him to make him look like 2004 Alfred Molina.
All right.
And then
that's what I mean. I'm not
doing something too. There's rumors that he's coming back.
Oh, Electro.
No, Green Goblin, William Dafoe.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
I
love William Dafoe.
I'm
I just
game for that.
He was great in Platoon, you know. That's another good movie.
Hampiest Green Goblin you can ever get.
I know, but it just worked.
It does. Great. Yeah, it's great.
You know, when you get high and you watch Spider-Man and that scene when he's just looking himself in the mirror and it's the double gang of talking back to him, his evil personality.
It's trippy,
that's
man.
Profound.
Yeah.
Whoa, Jesus Christ. You really feel like this is meant to be a kid's movie. It's like, fuck, you know, this is a man having a mental breakdown. It's something else. And then Spider-Man 2, yeah, it's just, anyway, Philip K. Dick. Let's do it. Sorry. Philip K. Dick. So because of your novel, it got me back onto Philip K. Dick, and I started off with Ubik. I'd read Scanner Darkly recently, and Ubik, I was just like, wow, this book is good. It's terrifying. There's existential dread. I love the whole Half-Life. How well versed are you on Ubik?
So they're going to start blurring together because I think I mix up Ubik and I mix up Eye in the Sky quite regularly.
Yeah. Ubik is the whole
refresher.
Ubik, they're on the moon, aren't they?
They go to the moon, yeah. They go.
Yeah.
It's in this future world of 1992. You've got these precogs and anti-precogs, and then you've got the normies. So you've got people like ourselves just going about our day, and we're vulnerable to the precogs because they can steal our thoughts, steal our ideas, a bit like Inception. And then so there's anti-precogs that can block them out. So it's kind of a good little synergy going on. And they have to go to the moon to do a job, goes tits up, and their boss dies. But then the world around them starts to regress, only to find out that they themselves are the ones that are dead. Because in this future world, you have what's called half-life. You get taken to a moratorium in Switzerland, put into a cold pack, and you're in this sort of weird fucking, I don't know what you'd call it, irreality or unreality, where you're just sharing this world together and you're just slowly deteriorating one by one until you're fully dead. I mean, I'm not very good at explaining things. I can just read it and that's it. Because how do you explain Philip K. Dick?
You can't.
I'm thinking he was a very paranoid man, and whatever he wrote down was what he was feeling at that time, you know.
I mean, he took so much amphetamines at one point in his life that he thought that he saw a metallic face in the sky. And that's what was the inspiration behind Three Stigmata Palmer Eldritch, which is the idea that God is evil. Have you read Three Stigmata?
Yeah. I was just going to say as well, wasn't that also when he came up with the idea for Valis, the laser?
From what I remember from the documentary, because there's a documentary on YouTube that you can watch called The Penultimate Truth, and I think it's the chronology of it is in the 70s. He was recovering from a tooth extraction, and I don't know what sedation or antibiotic, whatever they used, but it was quite a powerful. I can't even think of the word now.
Sedative.
Well, a sedative or whatever you call it. Yeah, anyway. So he's under the influence of that. And then a girl comes to his door and she's wearing like the fish pendant that the Christians wear, and the light reflected off it. And he recalls fucking beam just went through his head and just he had this epiphany. And it's like, wow, that's what led to him.
Get those ideas off one fucking beam of light is mental, isn't it? Write a whole novel about it. With
the premise for Ubik, with the stealing of the thoughts, he was convinced that the government were listening in on his thoughts. Like he probably was the proto tinfoil hat person.
But it makes sense then, though, because this was during the 1950s when you had that sort of what they call it, red fear. There was this constant fear of communism, of the Soviets, of the Eastern Bloc, and I think his wife at the time was sort of associated with the communist group in Berkeley, California, wherever they were living. So they were actually spied on. They were under scrutiny.
Was he an army man? Was he an armed forces dude?
No, he went to university and studied history, ancient history, and all that. And so he was being spied on. So and if you were taking speed and suffering with paranoid delusions, it's going to send you balmy, isn't it?
Yeah. And then he goes and creates all these fantastic stories based off his paranoia.
Exactly.
I heard something ridiculous that he can actually he could produce something like 2 full novels a year because of he'd just be up all night on speed, amphetamine, just producing story after story after story.
The thing as well, though, about his stories is, and it's one of the things I've always loved about them, I don't think there's any hit 300 pages in length. You feel like you've read 600 pages because he compacts so much plot into such a short volume. So that kind of makes it easy for him to pump out 2 books a year when you're kind of only aiming at 250. Like, I think what's Androids is like 227 or something like that. Like, it's a very skinny novel. The looking on the shelves, you'd think he has huge things, but a lot of the collections are a couple of his books put together. And it'd be great. I think the way the world has gone with social media and people they want all their content to be quick and fast and snappy. I think you could see a resurgence in writers going back to the 250 or less novella-sized books because people just want quick. I just want to read a book real. So I was like, I read 52 books this year. It's because they're all this fucking size. Of course you read 52 books this year.
Well, that's it. The culture has changed quite rapidly. I was even saying to Sean as a joke the other night, I was saying, do you think it's possible to develop ADHD in your adulthood? Because I feel like I can't even watch movies anymore. I really struggle to commit 2+ hours to a movie by myself.
Yeah.
I can't do it. You've got TikTok, you've got Instagram, you've got these 30-second reels, and there are children or young teenagers just flicking after one reel after the other. Like I can't understand. I don't understand TikTok, but I understand there are kids out there that are just addicted to it.
Yeah,
just watching one reel after the other. Whereas when we were younger, we would just go through meme pages and just read photos with meme little headers on them and all that, and just have a little giggle and move on to the next one. But
you'd have like tiny clip videos, 140p animations.
Yeah, GIFs.
Dumb shit. Yeah, just make you laugh. And we'd be fucking watching DVDs and videos still as well, playing our Xboxes with the big fucking giant controller.
Yeah, that's it.
Like, we had no perception of how advanced and how fast everything is as well. We used to have total shit internet, didn't we? Like, growing up.
Oh, kids these days, they don't know. Like, they're literally living in what we would have.
Yeah, they don't know the struggle.
It's like, what do you mean? There's like a movie on a CD? No, it's called a DVD, Granddad. It's like, okay, well, this is a VHS. What the fuck is a VHS? It's like, it's a big movie box.
My uncle Brendan still has all his VHSs. He doesn't have a VHS recorder anymore, but he still has them. I'm like, why have you still got these? Just fucking bury them. Honestly, like, they're not going to be worth shit. Like, seriously.
You'd be surprised.
Really? VHS is
idiot somewhere who like made $1 trillion on fucking Bitcoin and he'd be willing to pay for an original copy of Willow or something.
Oh, maybe like the Star Wars is unedited.
I was just going to say that, right? So my auntie up in Glasgow, she has a copy of, I remember seeing the original VHS cassettes of the first 3 Star Wars films. And if she still got them, I need to watch them because that's not going to
he's still got them across the road.
Well, that's it.
My uncle.
Find a VHS. Watch that.
Where am I? Yeah, eBay maybe. Yeah, I'm making it sound like they're more mythical than they fucking are, but
George Lucas just kept going over it and over and over it. And my dad told me this quote what I actually like. If you keep trying to sharpen a blade, eventually it's just going to snap.
Yeah,
and it's going to go blunt. And that's applies to us as writers. We keep going over it again and again and again and again. Eventually, you're going to ruin the fucking thing. And that's what George Lucas did with the Star Wars trilogy.
Oh man, he's destroyed it. You can't watch
the 1997 version of Jabba the Hutt, because here's a little bit of trivia for you. You probably already know this, but originally Jabba the Hutt was a human in the first film, and it was just going to be some guy with a little flat peak hat on, whatever, saying you owe me the money and all that. And Han Solo walks around them saying, I'll get you your money, right? They got rid of it in the end. So then what happens? You get to the third film and Jabba the Hutt's just this big gluttonous monster. And you're like, so that's Jabba the Hutt. Wow. Cut to 1997. They do the special edition and you've got this monstrosity of CGI.
What, next to the Millennium Falcon in A New Hope?
That's it.
And he stands on his tail as well, and he's like, "Oh,
yeah, exactly." Because originally that was just a guy, that was just a person. Jabba the Hutt was just a person.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I've ever seen that version.
Oh, you don't.
I've got to
fucking stay away.
Steal my uncle's originals, man.
Yeah.
So they're in a locked cupboard somewhere, though, man. With these VHS tapes.
So I don't know what your thoughts are, Derek, on the special edition Star Wars original trilogy.
So this usually gets me ostracized from polite society. I've only ever seen A New Hope. I do not enjoy Star Wars.
No, that's fair enough. I'm not a massive fan myself. You know what I mean? I'll dip in and out of it for nostalgia reasons, but because I was started with the Phantom Menace because I was a big fan of the PC game.
Right. Yeah.
So it was more that was my entrance into it. But I'm a big fan of Empire Strikes Back. It's the dark horse of the original trilogy. It wasn't directed by George Lucas. It was only written by him, Irving Kershner, who is like this legend. He did RoboCop 2. He did Empire Strikes Back, and he did, I can't remember the other fucking film he did, but he was a legend in the industry. And Empire Strikes Back is really kind of delves in on the whole heroes mythology. You know, Luke Skywalker having to go into the cave to confront himself, and it's Darth Vader, and he strikes him down. The mask blows up, and it's his own face. You know, I mean, it's really deep on that kind of mythology level. Yeah, no, I keep meaning to go back, but I think I watched a few minutes. What's the second one? Is the second one Return of the Jedi?
Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Okay, then, yeah, I watched most of Hot. And I was like, this is just boring me.
No, fair enough though. You either like it or you don't like it. And
yeah, I have a lot of friends like that because I was a giant fan up until I forget what it's called. It was that shit.
Last Jedi.
Yeah, that's the one. To Last Jedi and then Rise of Skywalker. I was just like, fuck, man, the bubble was burst. And you know.
Oh no, like, it was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking.
And like I could watch Star Trek till the cows come home.
Oh no, yeah, I'll probably get ostracized for this. I'm not a big fan of Star Trek. Or maybe that's going back. Maybe that's going back to my days of just being a total Star Wars nerd. But yeah, I've never give it a chance. I'll say that. The
Next Generation's good. That's a good place to start. I mean, you got Patrick Swayze. What more could you want?
But my mum used to had this ex-boyfriend, and he was a big Star Trek fan, and I remember he got me on the DVDs, and he was like, start from here and that, and I just boring as like the 1960s one with like William Shatner, and I just found it really boring. Maybe that's how you felt with Star Wars, but yeah, I just found it really fucking.
I think I definitely would be a fan of the TV shows, but I prefer the movies. But when I tell people to start watching the Shatner ones, I always tell them to skip the first one because Star Trek: The Motion Picture was written as a long episode that never got aired on TV. And then the TV show got cancelled, and Roddenberry worked his ass off to get a studio to make it into a movie because he's like, we can make movies now about this. But like the whole, like the plot's okay and the special effects were good for the time, and they kind of still hold up a little bit. But overall, the story and all was just like, it wasn't a movie. It wasn't a feature film as a script. If you jump into Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, like that just for me is where Star Trek just fucking went astronomical. That was a movie. There was there was danger. There was a villain that you could get behind because he was like one of these ones who's just doing it for the good of his people, not necessarily like megalomaniac wants to take over the world. They even addressed the fact that it was a continuation of a story from the original series by just getting one of the characters to kind of give like a 2-line summary of, oh my God, this is Khan. We put him here like as a punishment because he was a really bad guy like in 1960 when no one saw the TV show. And then they just go off on this mad adventure. So I always kind of like that. The Next Generation ones, there was a couple that were hit and miss. And then the newer ones are okay. They tried to get back into, big explosions and JJ.
That's what I was about to say, yeah.
He just loves his lights and his torches, JJ Abrams. Like,
lens flare.
Lens flare everywhere. It's like lens flare off lens flare.
Yeah, no, I do like the kind of world that they built. I mean, when it comes to Star Trek, I'm only really more familiar with the Next Generation canon, but I just love the idea that human beings have progressed to the point where we are kind of at peace as a whole society, and we're able to travel, the beyond. I love that concept.
There's a dark theory though. If you ever go around on Reddit, I can't remember what post it was on. So somebody basically said, in the Next Generation, they describe how the world has moved away from money. So there's no money on Earth anymore. Everyone just has jobs and they do what they like to do, and away we fly. But they start talking about when they visit Earth and Picard goes and he gets a cup of coffee in a coffee shop, and the guy comes out and he serves him his cup of coffee. That guy's not getting paid to be a waiter. So it's like slavery. It's servitude to the
in a way, yeah. It's almost like a post-industrial communist society.
Yeah, so there's you kind of look at this utopia, and it's like, when you read this Reddit post, it's like, this utopia is actually pretty fucking dark. If you just scratch the surface, it's not as shiny as you think it is.
It's a weird one, because I was watching a YouTube series that was I think it was called Extra Credits, and it's like animations that go over certain historical events, and one of them was money, the mention of money. And the way it was describing it was, say, for example, you were a fisherman and you were dealing with someone who grows crops. Well, you can fish all year round, but the person that's growing crops can only do it a certain time of the year.
Yeah.
So it's kind of inconsistent on the trade that you can do. So you need a sort of third item or a third party thing, and that would be money. And it's like, okay, we've all agreed amongst ourselves that that particular thing signifies value. And if you take that away, what are we back to? Just trading favors. Yeah. So how would it work in Star Trek? Is it just they're programmed to do it? Are they just...
I'm sure there's a universal galactic currency.
Maybe it's Bitcoin, but they just didn't go in depth.
No, you see, that's the thing. The whole thing about the Federation is they have gotten rid of money. It's why the Ferengi are such an abnormality in the Star Trek universe. Because to deal with the Ferengi, you have to give them, I can't remember now, it's dilithium was the crystal that powers the ship. There's another D though. But you pay Ferengi in a currency, and that's how you get information from the Ferengi. So it's only the Federation that got rid of money. All the other races, like the Klingons, the Ferengi, the Kardashians, they all have
the Kardashians?
Not the Kardashians. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of some of the other Kardashians.
You're thinking of the other Kardashians. Yeah, there's a race called Kardashians.
Took me by surprise, man.
But they all have money. They all still get paid, and they do backhanded deals. But anytime the Federation have to do a backhanded deal, they're there with the little pocket replicator going, shit, let's make some money out of thin air, because we don't actually have any of our own to do it. So it's a really weird concept that they never explain fully. How does the Federation, how do people in the Federation have jobs? How do they pay for things? How do they feel worth? Is it just, I'm on a starship and I hope to, eventually become a captain? Is that all of Earth's goals, is to become a captain at some stage?
Do you think it was just something that was completely left unexplored and just, plot convenience, or do you think it is really part of something darker?
I think it's plot convenience. I think what they were trying to do was, the Klingons were shown as a war race. That's all they're about. They're a war machine. The Romulans and the Vulcans are like two sides of the same coin. They're all about logic and being the smartest person in the room. So what the hell does humanity have? It's well, we'll get a warp drive and we'll fly around the sun to see what happens. And it's oh, look, we've discovered time warps. Are we going to just be the crazy fuckers in the universe? No. We're going to have this perfect society where everyone is getting everything they want. We've no homelessness and we've no hunger.
Yeah.
And how do we do that? We get rid of money. And it's okay.
This is really getting the cogs going. I'm just thinking there should be one day a year instead of the purge, the premise of the purge. Instead of that, it should be Star Trek Day, where no one pays for nothing and no one gets paid to do anything.
Yeah. Totally.
Just to see what would happen.
Absolutely.
Just people
it ended up like the plot of the purge. It just turned into the purge.
Yes, let's just kill everyone.
Everyone waits for Star Trek Day to get their new TVs, and then the guards are like, do we stop them? I don't know. Should we stop them?
No.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it could work. You just have to give people the benefit of the doubt. Because I'll give an example. Right? Maybe this is a bit of a stretch, right? So in Weymouth, we have a kind of a weird convoluted traffic light system. and it works, but it's a bit messed up. However, one day there was a power cut, and my friend works at Quick Fit Garage, which faces this traffic light system, and he said when the lights went out, there were no issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking people just figured it out.
Yeah, we've the exact same thing in the village that I live in. There's a T-junction, and when the lights are out, it works flawlessly. There's no traffic jams. There's no blowing of horns. People are going left. They're going right. They're going straight on, and we all just get to it.
People letting people through, waving hands,
manners, and we're all in it together. And then as soon as the lights come back on, it's like blowing of the horns, and nobody can fucking go anywhere.
I'd be happy going to work and not getting paid for it if it meant that I could just go pick up a lunch. The house paid for, the electric's paid for. What you got to do, just go to work and not get paid.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, fucking everything we do for fun was unpaid at one point. We still did it. The podcast, the books, didn't get fucking paid for it. We just did it.
Yeah.
It's it's drilled into our brains now. We're working for something.
Yeah.
I mean,
to be a captain.
When realistically, we don't have to work for anything.
That's it. But then I don't know. You're going to get people that take the piss, right?
You always will. That's the problem. You always will. It's like the argument about the law. The law is a great idea in principle, and yet it seems that criminals don't get prosecuted as strongly as the law would imply they should. But yet you don't pay your TV license, and you're fined 10 times the worth of an actual TV license. So it's like the law only punishes the people who actually abide by it.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about the TV license for a second. I read shit where people are like, yeah, you don't have to pay it. Nothing's ever going to happen. It's bullshit.
There's some weird European parliamentary rule that goes back to the fucking 40s or 50s. I don't know, where it's not actually, I don't know. You have to talk to my uncle. He's balls deep in that sort of thing.
I've seen YouTube videos of dudes just filming the TV license. People yeah, your access has been revoked. Goodbye. It's don't go back to my house.
It's a weird one, isn't it? Because this is what I learned in college. So I was studying radio, and the tutor was saying that there used to be a radio license, but because radios became portable, it could no longer be enforced. So they just scrapped the radio license for private use. I mean, it's still got to pay for commercial use, but when it came to private ownership of or the use of the radio, they couldn't enforce it. So the same thing's going to happen with the TV. TVs became portable, but also the medium has changed. Streaming platforms, this, that, and the other. You only have to pay, according to them, you only have to pay for the TV license if you're watching live TV. But Netflix isn't live, YouTube isn't live.
No, but they've changed it now. You can have to pay for watching an iPlayer and all four and all.
Yeah, but even that, but again, that's still their services. There's way more than just Channel 4, Channel 5, BBC.
Oh yeah, of course.
So in Ireland, they tried this a couple of years ago and it went nowhere. But this is just to show a politician can come up with a way to squeeze people at the drop of a hat. So here, the TV license, the actual definition of why you need to have one is if you have a device in your house capable of receiving a television signal. So what was happening was loads of people were getting big screen monitors that couldn't hook up to a TV box. And like you're saying, streaming Netflix to it. So the government then tried to reword the license, but it fell on its arse because they didn't understand what they were saying, where it was no longer a device capable of receiving a TV signal. It was a device capable of receiving a feed from the national broadcaster. In other words, you have the RTE player installed on your phone and you're streaming that to the TV. Now, I've seen the iPlayer and I've seen the Channel 4 one. Compared to them, the RTE player is Stone Age nonsense. It's fucking horrible. And this is our state broadcaster, so no one uses it. And that's where they fell down, because they were kind of okay, how many people have it installed? And it's well, there's 4 people up in Donegal, and that's it from the whole population of the island. So they're shit, we can't change the wording because we're going to lose money on this one.
Yeah, and Channel 4, 4 on demand, brags about being the biggest free streaming service available, and you can pay to have no ads. So wouldn't that make Channel 4 independent to the licensing? I'd imagine so.
Well, one of the things that I like about the UK license model for TVs is, particularly BBC, that's funded by the license. So there's no ads. All the ads that they show are for their own stuff. Ireland RTE is meant to be like our BBC. They're funded entirely by the license, and they are fucking riddled with ads all over the place. And then when you get onto the player, you have to watch 4 ads before your show starts, and then there's 2 ads in the middle, regardless of the length, minimum. And like people say it to them, it's like, you can't have fucking ads here as well if we're paying a license. Like the iPlayer doesn't do this. And they're like, oh yeah, we need to make the money and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, we're just going to stop using your service.
Yeah, I mean, the BBC is dying on its ass. I mean, you won't hear much about it, but I'll give an example. There's a guy I follow on YouTube called Nerderotic. He's quite a funny dude.
He's great. The beard and the glasses.
Yeah, I like him. I mean, a lot of that, I don't know what to define these guys, but there is a sort of little group of them on YouTube, and a lot of them are kind of whiny and pain in the ass, but I like him and the Critical Drinker. They're my favorites.
Right, yeah.
They're part of that little kind of, I don't want to come across the wrong way. This is what they'd be identified as. You sort of typical right-wing Trump supporters. That's what the Liberal would call them. I don't know what the correct term is. Just sort of.
Wouldn't Nerderotic refer to himself as a white racist?
Yeah. All right. We'll call him that. We'll call him that, a white racist. That's what he calls himself, white racist. So these white racists, right? They do have a lot of content covering, the BBC, because he was a big fan of Doctor Who at one point.
That's right, Jay.
So I was really, I don't even watch Doctor Who, but I was really into watching him slag off the current Jodie Foster. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Season.
Even the one before that. Peter Capaldi. He's not a bad actor, yeah, but he butchered Doctor Who, man.
It was the writer, it was the showrunners that are just butchering it. Because what it is, I think they would, the BBC were desperately trying to appeal to the sort of 18 to 35 demographic.
Yeah, but they had that before. I think they tried to go more darker. And it didn't work, I don't think. It alienated the audience. It alienated me because I fucking got the fuck out of there.
Yeah, I mean, you had those 2 doctors beforehand. Oh, I can't remember the first guy's name, and then you had.
So you had
Matt Smith, and then before him was Scottish dude.
David Tennant.
That's the one.
That was it. Yeah, and they were great.
I wasn't into David Tennant. Well. I liked Eccleston. I wasn't a fan of Tennant. I loved Matt Smith, and then I went, so I stopped after when he left.
But that was a resurgence of Doctor Who because it died on its arse in 1989, and then it came back. I know everything about Doctor Who without even watching the fucking thing. But and anyway, so you it's been dying on its ass because the quality of the show is abysmal, according to Nerderotic.
So I'm actually a big Doctor Who fan. I haven't watched. I think I gave up on it last year. I watched most of the Jodie Whittaker stuff, and what I think they tried too much with the Jodie Whittaker stuff is kind of what's going on in Hollywood at the minute. And we're going to be totally branded fucking arseholes for having this conversation, but it's just because we're having an open mind to things. With the Jodie Whittaker stuff, they just tried to force in social justice warrior stuff too hard for no actual like plot reason. Whereas, and I know you were saying, Sean, that you weren't a big fan of the Capaldi. Like, I actually think Capaldi he's what I would refer to as my Doctor. I really enjoyed his seasons. But they handled social justice stuff better with him because it wasn't being wedged in. It was an educational thing on top of the story. Whereas the Jodie Whittaker stuff is all like, look at me, I'm a woman now, and isn't that great? Now there was a woman here, and look at my multicultural, ethnically diverse bunch of people who go around with me. I've got the old white dude who's pretty dumb because the smart Indian girl is going to help me solve the day. And then we've got the dark-skinned fella who, he's a little bit shy, but he's actually really fucking smart. And it's like, none of them are developed properly as characters. It was literally just box tick, box tick, box tick. And that's where it started to fall on its arse. And then all of its stories then just hinged on, well, what's popular at the moment? What are people giving out about at the moment? Equal rights for homosexual people. We'll do a whole crazy story about aliens that does that. It's like, no, it's sci-fi. It doesn't deliver the message the right way because people are watching it going, oh, the 2 aliens kissed. They're not fucking putting 2 and 2 together. They're trying to do a story about equal rights for gay people.
It's an issue with the virtue signaling, and most people aren't dumb. It's very easy to pick up on the inauthenticity of it all.
Exactly.
Doing it for the sake of it. Like, to give an example of a classic example of a strong female lead, we've got Sarah Connor, we've got Ellen Ripley. You know, they're strong women, they're strong characters because of how it was written.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of put them in a corner where they had to overcome. I mean, you look at Sarah Connor in the first Terminator movie, and she's being carried around and, you know, by a male lead, which is Kyle Reese.
Yeah.
But then by the second movie, she's had a massive change.
Yes.
And she herself almost becomes like a Terminator herself, going after Miles Dyson.
Yeah.
And it's because of good writing. It's because James Cameron fucking thought that shit out for a long, long time.
And the key thing as well is, and this is where current female leads are getting let down by their writers. If you gender swapped Sarah Connor in the movie just for a second, it's the same story, it's the same character. They never make a reference to her gender as being a thing that you need to actually be, you know, aware of. She's just a badass. She just kicks ass. She just blows up Terminators and kidnaps, you know, billionaire tycoons who are doing things that she doesn't want them to do. But they don't do any, like, you know, and I did it all while wearing high heels, because there's no fucking relevance to that. You don't need to highlight that. We can see she's a woman. We can also see she's a person you don't want to piss off. And that's, again, go back to Doctor Who, like that's where that all starts falling over, because it was just constantly shining a light on I'm a woman now. It's like, nobody cares. Just write a story. We don't care who the lead is. Just write the story.
Like you
said, can reverse it as well. Game of Thrones does it really well with, like, Cersei. She's a motherfucking bitch, but she's a woman lead being a bitch. You know what I mean? Owning it in that way. It
happens across anything, regardless of what agenda you're trying to pursue. Like, even with the podcast, if we try and tick certain boxes, it's gonna cause the podcast, the potential conversation of the podcast, to be inferior to what it could be naturally as it unfolds. Mm-hmm. When you try to keep it in this little box, you know, it's you're restricting it. You're not letting it breathe. It can't be. You know what I mean?
We're not trying to be offensive. We're just speaking the truth.
It's not
happening. It's happening. We see it with our own fucking eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're just letting it form. If we say, "Oh, Derek, by the way, we can only talk about this, 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 and this, and this," and then we're kind of confined to this ticking of the boxes. You're writing with both hands tied behind your back when you try and, you know, cater to a new rise in culture. But these cultures come and go. When we were younger, it was all like emo fringes and fucking dark, you know, mascara on the eyes and fucking black nails and My Chemical Romance. And they tried doing that with Spider-Man 3, and it didn't fucking age well.
No. But the funny thing about the offendials these days is it seems like the offendials are now getting offended by their own people at the same time. I don't know if you were following Loki, the TV show. There was Marvel did a big spiel where he was going to be gender fluid.
Okay.
So load of people were like saying, "Oh, you're just ticking boxes." Load of other people were saying, "This is fantastic because you're bringing in a character now that other people in the world can go, well, now I'm gender fluid, and then there's somebody on the TV that does it." A load of people rightly pointed out that if you go back to Norse mythology, Loki's been gender fluid since like before anybody was born, because like he turned himself into a female horse to impregnate another horse and all this kind of craziness. So what Marvel did was they just like kind of shone a light on something to kind of go like, look how great we are. And then when the first episode aired, there was no reference to this gender fluidity that they were kind of virtue signaling they were bringing about, aside from like a brief mention on a form that you see for like 2 seconds where it says gender undecided or something like that. And what happened was the offendials then got super offended because some of them said Marvel had gone too far and others said Marvel hadn't gone far enough. And they started having a fight with themselves on the Twitter threads. And you're like watching it going, you just can't please these people at all. There's nothing that will please them. Like, you know, first off, they were happy that this was happening. Then they're not happy that it went, like they wanted them to have a boyfriend and a girlfriend in the episode. It's like, it's a 40-minute episode, guys. Like, there's only so much they can do to keep everybody happy and tell the story at the same time.
It's trying too hard.
I think there's a whole sci-fi book there, like offendials, and just writing about having a war.
I like that word. I've never heard that word until you said it now. Offendials.
I'm trying to make it a thing. I think it's mine.
Oh, okay. A bit like fetch in Mean Girls. I'm joking. Stop trying to make offendials happen, Derek.
Offendials.
I know what you're saying. Word. And don't get me wrong, like, you know, we're all pretty fucking liberal minded anyway. Well, we're old school liberal, you know what I mean? We're 2000s liberal, you know what I mean? Like, you know, we were kind of, you know what I mean? Like, my dad raised me when I was between the ages of 4 and 8, and he said to me, it's okay to be gay, it's okay to be transgender, it's all, you know what I mean, it's okay to be black. So it was never really an issue for me. So I was always I'm glad I was raised that way. But now I'm seeing an even more extreme version where even myself would be considered a racist in a certain conversation. And I'm like, really? Wow, fucking hell, I was considered like a hippie liberal when I was younger. This is growing beyond. And look, don't get me wrong, it's nice to see representation in these TV shows. It's nice to see it in these movies. But if you're doing it to pander, it will destroy the quality of the story.
Absolutely.
Always. It has to be natural. It has to come from within. It has to be within your heart. You know, otherwise.
And like you said about Spider-Man 3, it just does not age well either. We'll get 5 years down the line and there'll be another trend, and this one will be like, why is there rainbows in fucking Doctor Who?
The emo thing died with MySpace back in 2009. You know what I mean? We fucking moved on from that and started wearing plaid shirts again.
Somebody that read Duplex only recently, they got onto me and they said what they really liked about the book, aside from the story of it, was Temple being a woman is never really referenced. She's just a female detective and she just fucking goes off and solves the case. She's kick-ass. But he goes, at no point do you ever mention skin color or anything like that. So like if it ever got made into a movie, there won't be a mad uproar about casting. Just get the best actress you can get. That's all you need to do.
Exactly.
Nobody cares, like, because Gaiman is having a big problem with this. I don't know if you've been following this, the Sandman series that's getting turned into a Netflix show. They cast a person of color as Det, and in the comic books, Det is a white woman, and in the show, she's going to be a black woman. And like, I looked at it and went, she looks like she knows her shit, like, so brilliant. But like, there's loads of fans are jumping on it going, no, because she's white in the thing. And it's like, this is why comic books are a horrible medium to write for, because they get too attached to the visuals. Yeah. Whereas if you don't mention any of that stuff, you literally don't care. You have a story, you get the right people for the job, you make the show, boom, off we fly.
You know, in a weird twist, I watched the film Jackie Brown before I read the book. So Jackie Brown was directed by Quentin Tarantino, but the book is called Rum Punch, written by Elmore Leonard. In the book, Jackie Brown is Jackie Burke, and she's a white woman. But in the film, Quentin Tarantino wanted to pay homage to, I can never pronounce the word right, blaxploitation.
Blaxploitation.
Yeah. He was going for that sort of genre. So he made Jackie Burke, African-American woman, Jackie Brown. But every time I read the book, I only ever see Pamela. Is it Green? Pamela Green? What's her name? I'll figure out her name. But anyway, I always see Jackie Brown. Yeah. I don't see a white woman. So, you know what I mean? It just happens because she's so good in that film.
Just the story is good. The person was the right person for the job. Yeah. Job done.
Exactly. And again, it's got to come from your heart. But you know what's interesting? Here's a little thing I was thinking about the other week when it comes to the whole rapid changing culture with the whole non-binary, gender fluid thing. It doesn't really throw me off that much, because when you think about where we're heading technologically, it's going to get to the point where we really can massively alter our identity. I mean, with this whole COVID thing, you know, you've got this mRNA gene therapy thing going on. Now, that's just the beginning. I mean, yeah, it's got its issues now, but there's going to come a point 10, 20 years down the line where that thing's going to get fucking perfected, and you can cure cancer, you can cure diabetes, but then you're going to go even further with it. And next thing you know, you're going to be able to change whole DNA strands and shit. I mean, I don't know too much about biochemistry enough to get into the depths of it, but that's where it's going to be heading, to the point where you could physically change yourself into a female.
We're 30 years away from having a robotic heart and just being able to walk around forever.
Yeah. So, you know, it's just that the whole cultural change in the discourse is about 20 years premature to what's actually going to be possible on a physiological, biochemical level. So I'm totally on board with it. I just can't stand these pricks on social media that jump down your throat just because you use the wrong pronoun. It's like, well, look, I'm not your enemy. All right.
I go by they and whom.
Yeah. That was good. Yeah. Well, I don't know. But again, it's very toxic. Like you said, some people just go too crazy. It's like, whoa. I'm your ally. Let's have a conversation. All right.
I'm very fortunate. I'm working with somebody at the moment that uses, so here's an interesting thing, actually. Alternate pronouns is considered a microaggression, because it's actually their preferred pronoun. So they have identified as these are the pronouns that they want to use. So saying alternate pronouns doesn't make us an ally. saying preferred pronoun makes us understand that this is actually a choice that they've made and we're accepting that choice. So talking to this person, they've been kind of helping me understand some of these things I wouldn't have a lot of exposure to, but like they themselves have said there's two types of, I'm going to say non-binary, but that's just kind of an umbrella term for these people. There's the ones like them who want to come along and help us and educate us. And, you know, you don't necessarily understand what we're going through, so we're going to tell you why these things became what they are. And then there's the ones that you've described just there, where you slip up for fucking half a nanosecond and they're on you like a ton of bricks. You've got fundamentalists and you've got educators. And it's the same with like even vegans.
Yeah.
You know, you've got vegans that like, you know, they throw blood at you and they scream blue murder. And then you've got vegans that go, I've got a corn sausage over here if you want to try it. And if you don't, that's cool. I like it, but you don't obviously have to like it. It'd be great if we had more of the educational side of people and less of the fundamentalist side of people. I think because then people that are a bit slower to adapt have more opportunity to learn. And those of us like us here who are already fairly open-minded, we can actually ask questions and not feel like we're going to get stuff fucking fired at us with pitchforks.
Yeah, I mean,
most of the people that complain are the ones who jump on the trends. They won't be vegans in 5 years' time.
Yeah,
it's the ones who cry at getting their pronouns wrong. They'll be still crying about getting their pronouns wrong in 5 years.
Yeah,
but the ones who jump on the trends, they'll be long gone.
And it's not even that. It's like the people who go out their way to try and cancel people, they themselves end up becoming cancelled because no one's perfect. No one's track record is pristine. You know, we're human beings. We're flawed. You know, we all have bad days and shit. And it's like, you know,
my big problem with cancel culture is it's social media archaeology. It's people that go onto your social media feeds and they go back years and decades in some cases, like with James Gunn. The joke that he made 10 or 12 years ago, was it appropriate now? No. Was it appropriate then? Probably not, but it was edgy comedy that he was trying to do. However, did anyone actually go up to James Gunn and then say, do you still find it funny now? He probably would have said no, because people evolve. That's the whole point of being alive. You learn a lesson, you become a better person.
Everyone has a different skeleton every 7 years.
I was just thinking that, yeah. All right, yeah. From an analogy perspective, from a I'm losing my words today, so I'm a bit frazzled from working all week. Anatomy from an I can't say the word. Anonytable. From a perspective of anatomy. All right, there we go. I said it. Right.
There you go.
Obviously, our cells, our tissues are replenishing themselves. You know, they die and you know, replenish themselves constantly, right? Yeah. And that's going on all the time. Skin cells, blood cells, every 6 weeks, every 4 weeks. But when it gets to with the skeleton, you've got osteoclast, osteoblast. One is designed to eat away old bone, and the other is designed to build new bone. So after 7 years, you have a new skeleton. So me and Sean were joking about saying that we should bring out a new law where after 7 years, you can't be retroactively cancelled for anything because you had a different skeleton then.
You know, you joke, but it's not a fucking bad idea, because it gives people the opportunity to actually then say, actually, yeah, 7 years ago, that wasn't funny. I don't think it's funny now. Please. All right,
we're starting a new movement, but we've got to come up with a name with it, you know.
I've been trying to think while you're speaking, but I can't think of a decent name.
Skeleton double jeopardy.
Anti-offendials.
Anti-offendials, yeah. Anti-offendials. And we use the skeleton. We use the new skeleton clause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you are essentially a brand new human being. You know.
I mean, I know them because what's the thing with memories? Your memories are just your thoughts reconnecting images. And they're not actually.
It's a memory of a memory.
Yeah, yeah. You're not actually.
You know, think of a time you went to a cafe with a friend. Do you remember what they're wearing? Do you remember what the table looked like? Probably not. You know,
it's mainly what you spoke about. You always remember good times and bad times. It's never the in between, is it? It's never when you're just smoking a cigarette, like, hi. You know what I mean? You don't remember asking that someone how they were 10 years ago.
You just fill in the blanks, don't you?
Yeah.
You know, oh, they're wearing a green shirt. It doesn't really matter. You know, it's not important. That's why I always say to, especially, I don't wish to generalize, but, you know, I'll say with my girlfriend, you know, if she's stressing out about how her outfit looks before she goes out, I'll say to her, well, think about a night 10 years ago. And she go, okay. And I think, how good was it? She went, oh, it was amazing. I said, do you remember what you're wearing or how you look? She went, no. I said, well, there you go then. Fucking go have a good night.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about the superfluous details. And that's it. Fuck your hair. No matter how good you look. You're going to look
Yeah.
back on it 15 years from now saying, fuck yeah, look at the state of me. What fuck fashion was going on then?
Oh, yeah, you know what I mean?
There are people in the 70s wearing these fucking bell bottoms or whatever they're called.
The flares.
Flares
like that
with
wide.
the heels. And they, with the afros, white people with afros. And it's like,
Yeah, they're fucking strutting around.
They thought they
don't
looked
give a
amazing.
shit, yeah.
It's like, no, dude, all the little Madonna co in the 1980s.
Well, what was that one in the 90s or the early 2000s with the weird hairdo the girls used to do with the scrunch up and I don't know what it was
all
fucking
the guys
called.
with the frosted tips.
It's like a pyramid on their head. Frosted tips.
So
the point is, whoever's watching this, just fucking go out and enjoy your night. Don't worry about the little details.
Fuck your clothes and your hair.
Make memories. You know what I mean? Because one day you'll just be an old person shitting in a bed, not there to get out. Like, oh, you know, maybe that's too deep. Sorry.
That's the dream. Old person shitting in the bed.
Yeah.
That's what I want to be in fucking 30, 40 years time. Just shitting in my bed.
Shitting in my bed, wishing I hadn't worried about the outfit too much because it was a great night.
Exactly.
So a bit of a segue, but what are your thoughts on the whole colonization of Mars? Because we were going to delve into that with the Philip K. Dick story threads and Elon Musk parallels.
So I've read a couple of sci-fi books actually on this recently enough. One of them was called, I can't remember the author's name now, but it was called One Way, and there's a follow-up to it called No Way. And they're interesting reads because it all depends on how the colonization starts, right? And I don't mean like from a techie point of view. I mean from is it going to be a government or is it going to be a company? Because if it's a company, you end up in a situation where suddenly air becomes a commodity that gets
total recall. Yeah.
Total recall. And if it's a government, you end up with probably everything going arse about face and done on the cheap, and it's going to be an absolute disaster.
Yeah, and bureaucracy, you know.
So you need to have something, somehow a nice halfway house. Like I said, I remember I said it to my wife when the SpaceX went over it actually flew over our house when they were going to the ISS. And I was saying, like, that fucker's going to get people to Mars. Like, that's going to be cool. And we're going to be on the ship. And she's like, what? I was like, we're fucking going to Mars. She's like, I've read enough books about this thing that I want to actually go and see it. And she goes, but like, there's no way back from that. And I was like, who cares? We're on Mars. Like, it'd be great. We'll have a little dome. We'll grow some veg. You know, we'll go back to the light. I don't know if you watched the show. The books are pretty decent as well. The Expanse touches on this. There's a line in The Expanse in season 1, I think it was, that's perfect for what Mars could be. And so in it, the colonization of Mars has happened, but everyone's living like in domes and things, and they're trying to figure out how to turn the atmosphere into something breathable. And there's a guy sitting, I think he's sitting just outside the Statue of Liberty, and he's looking up, and his wife comes over and he goes, we've covered this whole planet in concrete and in steel, and they're up there on the red planet trying to make it go green because we all want grass again. And it's like, that's what the colonization of Mars is going to be. That's the adventure that's going to be there. I don't think I'll get to it, sadly, but hopefully my grandkids will get there on a trip.
No, I think in our lifetime we'll be able to at least do a flyby of it. But the problem is it takes 9 months to get there. And the longest anyone, I could be wrong, I mean, but as far as I know, the longest anyone's ever been in low Earth orbit is 6 months. Chris Hadley. It might have been longer, it might have been broken since, but 6 months.
There was somebody who'd done the ISS for a year. He had a twin. It was an experiment to see how much his DNA changed compared to his twins for a year.
Right. Okay, that's cool. So they did that for a year, because that's the problem. Like, what I've learned about the implications of being in a zero or low Earth orbit with zero gravity environment is that your bone density goes to shit, and if your bone density goes down and your bones get fucked, your immune system is compromised.
Yeah.
Our bodies are evolved for this atmospheric pressure.
Yep.
It is designed for this gravity. And it's like, how do we need to find a way past that.
The book I'm currently reading, the title of it escapes me, but the premise of it is there's a thing that Buzz Aldrin came up with after he'd done all of his Apollo missions called the Aldrin Cycler. Basically, it's his theory was you could have a ship up in orbit, and when it leaves Earth's gravitational pull, if you do your trajectory all right, and it's all like astronomical space stuff that I don't fully understand, but based off the gravity of Mars and Earth, this ship could just kind of float through space and then bypass Mars, but then Mars would kind of pull it back and it would slingshot it and fire it back to Earth. And people then could like drop down from little drop ships from this ship that's just forever spinning around. So in the book, you're following like the crew as they're going along on the first voyage out towards Mars. And I've literally gotten to a bit where they're talking about bone density. Somebody's refusing to have what they call nanos put into them. And the nanos are like what you were saying earlier on, the cells are dying, the bones are being rebuilt. The nanos are doing that, but like on steroids. And it's the way they mitigate the effects of space travel is they have these little nanos running through their body all day long. And they're rebuilding the bone to avoid bone density problems. And the character that refuses to get it, he's forced to run, I think like 2 hours a day in low G to keep his bone density up. And he eventually just goes, just give me the fucking nanos. I've had enough of this running stuff. I can't be doing it anymore. But like, that's what we need. We need technology that basically can do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for like going to Mars or going to the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, you do need some form of technology to assist, or some form of nanobot based technology that's going to stop the, you know, deterioration of our muscles, the deterioration of our cells and tissues and bones. But no doubt they're working on that now. You know, like you said, we're going to see it in our lifetime. It's just,
yeah, they'd have to be if they're planning on doing it.
The problem is though, is that whoever's going to Mars ain't coming back. It's going to be a one-way mission, and then hopefully they get some supplies sent, because the way the orbit works is that when Mars and Earth are at their closest, I think it takes 3 minutes to get there. But at its furthest point, it takes 20 minutes. This is the speed of light. So communications takes 3 minutes, but 20 minutes at its furthest point.
Oh, so there's always going to be delay in communications.
Yeah, it's 1.1 second between the Earth and the moon. That's how long it takes from light to travel between the two. But when it gets to Mars, it's 3 to 20 minutes one way. So 6 and 40 minutes both ways. And I was watching this, there's a good YouTube channel called In a Nutshell. It's also got a German name. We have this little joke about In a Nutshell.
Sorry, I just can't help it, man.
It makes them laugh every time I say In a Nutshell. But that's the name of the YouTube channel. And it has a German name to go along with it, but I can never fucking pronounce it. But if you just type in a Nutshell Mars base, the video will come up immediately. And they talk about the real, the things that are preventing us going there now. Some of it was fascinating. It was saying, like, you know, the soil, the Martian soil, the Martian land is radioactive as fuck. And, you know, if you want to have a base on Mars, you've got to have like a really thick leaded capsule covered in soil to stop the radiation getting in. And you have to have a spacesuit attached outside that can never come in with you. You have to slip into the suit to, you know what I mean? It's like, it's hard to explain the video.
Like living in Chernobyl.
Yeah, you can't have any windows, you know, for your base. It has to be sealed off. It's like, that'll be a miserable existence.
Is the film, you ever seen The Martian? Is that film accurate then?
No.
No.
Because they like use a tent to basically live on the base.
No, I think that's the moment I went off movies for a couple of years, like watching that film.
It's a great film, but it's just not accurate.
Yeah, it's one of the better ones when it comes to that one. I mean, it could be worse. It could be that, what's his name in Shawshank Redemption? Gary Sinise did a movie, didn't they? In 2000, Mission to Mars or something like that.
Mission to Mars, yeah, that was crap. Oh my God.
But that's what I mean. So, you know, if you're going to live on a base on Mars, and I mean, you know, anytime soon, you're going to be in a windowless fucking tomb.
Oh yeah,
made of lead.
Full on pioneer stuff. Like it's good luck and see you later. And hopefully you're not a skeleton when the next crowd arrives.
Exactly. I mean, there is some hope that maybe the caves might offer some protection. There are caves in Mars that we haven't really explored. But again, you know, you got to have like sun factor 1,000, because that's how thin the atmosphere is from protected. The sun's a monster. People don't realize the sun is a fucking monster. We're so lucky to have the atmosphere that we have. That's why I think we live in a simulation, because it's just too fucking convenient.
The Goldilocks zone.
Not even just that, but we got this mega planet that stops asteroids coming at us. I mean, how many solar systems like us have that?
Yeah, we've got 2 planets that just sit there like doink.
Yep, we have a moon that's keeps our seasons consistent, keeps our tide levels consistent, keeps our moods consistent. It's like, some people argue, well, you know, maybe we've adapted to those, you know,
Yeah, but if the moon affects tides and we're 70% water, it's going to affect us, isn't it? Surely.
Yeah.
If the theory is to be believed.
Well, if it wasn't for the moon, like splashing shit around in the first place, there would have been no evolution.
Exactly. And what's the other thing as well? It slows
I'm sorry,
down.
I have to bring this up, but my friend has in his Twitter bio, this is ridiculous. It says in his Twitter bio, we evolved from Homo sapiens.
I know who that is. What a fucking dick.
That's so dumb. Anyway.
It's like the line in Friends with Joey, where he goes like, if the Homo sapiens were Homo sapiens, is that when he died out?
Yeah, just mate, I can't. It just can't fathom. My brain can't compute when I read it. It's just like, what?
It's not even that as well.
We are Homo sapiens, aren't we? We are.
Well, I read as well that the moon is responsible for slowing down our rotation. Without the moon, days would only be 6 hours long. So I read. So that we've got this perfect celestial body.
How fast would the Earth have to spin before we feel it?
I don't know. That's mind blowing.
Sorry,
like when you look out of a moving car, if you look down at the road, it's going really, really, really fast, right? But if you look at the trees in the distance, it just kind of slowly passes by. Relative, isn't it? That's relativity, isn't it? I don't know.
That's to do with time.
All right.
I'm going too deep.
I'm sorry, Derek. I'm really burned out. That's why I'm really struggling for words. Normally I'm quite sharp, so I just apologize. It is what it is.
I don't think we've ever gone this deep before, though, so it's understandable.
But normally I'm quite good. Yeah, normally I'm quite good at articulating myself, though. The words are there in my mind, ready. But I'm having a burnout day today, so that's all it is.
All good. It's all good. Still enjoyable.
Yeah, so you don't have to explain yourself.
So it's all good. But what's funny, when I was reading the Three Stigmata of Palmer Eldritch, this was written in 1965, I believe, and it was kind of drawn parallels between the Vietnam War, because people were being drafted in the novel, were being drafted to these colonies. They didn't want to, but they had to. And the main character, Barney Mason, I think his name was, he had this little briefcase with him called Dr. I can't remember the name, Dr. Nice or something like that. It was basically a briefcase that was a psychiatrist to prove that he was too insane or too stressed to go to be drafted.
Yeah.
But Dr. Smile, that's his name, Dr. Smile. And it was just fascinating because towards the end of the book, Barney eventually just says, fuck it, I'm going to Mars to live on the colony. And it was weird how they live in these little hovels and they're just miserable. They have these little miniature homes with dolls. They have Walt and they have Pat. And when they take the drug Candy, it takes them into this temporary world where the males become, this wouldn't age too well either. The males become Walt, and the females become Pat. And they can all join together in this sort of shared consciousness and experience this nice environment through the consumption of Candy, the drug.
Yeah.
And that was very similar to what happened in Vietnam. Soldiers were being sent heroin, ecstasy, LSD to help them cope with this shitty new reality they were experiencing.
Yeah.
It's not official, but it's ask enough people and you look around for it, you'll find there was a lot of black market.
Easy enough. Yeah.
Well, especially in Southeast Asia, yeah. Especially those last few years of the Vietnam War, people were off their fucking face, man. They didn't care anymore. They were getting pulled out left, right, and center, and the ones that remained were just taking heroin. And but I just find it fascinating that Palmer Eldritch in the story is this. I'd say he's an entrepreneur of some sort. He was going to Proxima Centauri, yeah. And I love that quote they use, that they thought because he went so far, perhaps he would find God. But he ends up coming back being like an evil
God himself. Yeah.
Because he has this new variation of a drug called Choose Ed. But when you consume this, you don't go into the Perky Pat layout. You go into the mind of Palmer Eldritch. And at no point do you ever really are fully convinced that these characters ever woke up from the nightmare of being in Palmer Eldritch's mind. And that's probably the hell that Philip K. Dick was living in himself.
Oh, I'd say so. I'd say his brain was like firing the last of the neurons around when he shuffled off the mortal coil.
Yeah. I mean, the man died at the age of 53 of a stroke. I mean, 53 is quite young.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
The poor guy didn't get to live to see the final version of Blade Runner. He got to see a little bit of it, but not too much.
When did Blade Runner come out? 82?
82, yeah. May 1982. And I think Philip K. Dick died in like February. But he got to see a little bit of it. If you watch Dangerous Days, which is, you've probably got the little Blade Runner Final Cut DVD collection. Dangerous Days is like a really long documentary covering the making of it. And Ridley Scott says himself, oh yeah, we had Philip K. Dick come in and we showed him like 10 minutes of some of the shots we had with the Vangelis music playing, and Philip K. Dick was blown away. It's like, how did you do this? It's like you hardwired my brain and put it out there. This is exactly how I imagined it. So I thought, I'm glad he got to see a little bit of it. That's cool.
Yeah. It's a crappy story otherwise.
Yeah, that's it. And Minority Report, I mean, that's another great adaptation as well. The whole idea, determinism versus free will. For those who aren't familiar with Minority Report, the premise is that you have these three precogs. They dream of murder. And because of that, Washington in the future has a whole pre-crime department, and Tom Cruise is the head of that department. And they go catch the murderer before they've even committed the murder. So it kind of throws in this little paradox, like, well, how can they be arrested if they haven't committed a crime yet?
So before its time, isn't it?
Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
Even the short story is fucking.
Yeah, I often think a lot of Philip K. Dick stuff was before its time in terms of just the plot.
Yeah, but then that movie come out. That movie would still be relevant now if it came out, and if it was done a bit better, it'd be awesome. Or am I just waffling?
What is it you don't like about the film? What could be better? I'm not saying that to judge you. I'm just curious.
Mate, because I haven't watched it in such a long time. I think when I was younger, I thought it was boring. Maybe if I watched it now, it'd be a bit better. Maybe the CGI wouldn't hold up still. And I've seen a bit of movie mistake where he's like sideways on a car, but
he kicks the window out, doesn't he?
Yeah, the window's not broken.
Yeah. I was just about to say, that really bugs me now, that does.
And he's standing on the car with the windows, and then it's the window's back. He's standing on it. It's like, oh my God. No.
In my head, I was
maybe the window repaired itself. We don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, it just replenished itself. Yeah,
so in Philip K. Dick's brain, he knew.
Yeah, he never actually kicked that window out. Yeah, he actually got caught. Well, here's an interesting little theory about Minority Report. So obviously he gets captured at the end. Spoiler alert for a film that came out fucking 19 years ago. He gets captured at the end, and the form of incarceration that they have in this is that they get like a halo put over their head, and they all get put in these big glass tubes and just sort of kind of in this, what you call a sort of shared universe. Yeah, sort of shared universe, right? And just as he's going in, the guy who runs the prison says, you know, you're in my world, John. You go into I'm paraphrasing, you know, here all your dreams come true.
Yeah.
And then what happens? His ex-wife gets him out. They get Lamar, and they live happily ever after.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, was that all his dreams come true?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think in the movie he never gets out of the thing. No. Just at from that point on, it's all dream that we see.
Yeah, because it tonally it isn't consistent, is it? So that has to be the case.
Yeah.
And I like how these directors don't explain nothing. They're just like, yeah, make up your own mind.
Yeah. Let's just argue about it for the rest of the time.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, so what would your argument be on? And this is a question to both of you. You know, could it be that if you explain to these people, oh, by the way, you're going to murder this person, so don't, and they said, oh shit, I didn't realize, do you think, or just go out and arrest them because they're going to supposedly allegedly commit a murder because these precogs dreamt it? You know, what would you say? Like, if people are made aware of their own fate, can't they then have the choice to avert it? But then that goes into the free will argument rather than the determinism, because what's the character, Tom Cruise's character name? John fucking, I was gonna say John Spartan there. That's fucking
not too sure.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. So Tom Cruise, he, you know, the whole premise of the movie is that he himself is going to commit a murder 48 hours from now, and he goes on the run. But the events throughout the film lead to him, you know, doing that murder.
Doesn't he murder several people on the route to his murder?
No.
Or is he just on the run?
But the events himself lead to him committing the murder, or, you know, there's other elements as well. Murder. Yeah, almost commit the murder.
I think it touches on the Matrix, actually, when he meets the Oracle, and she tells him to pick up the cookie, and he's like, I don't want a cookie, and she goes, you'll want it later. And he reaches over, then he picks up the cookie, and he's looking at her, and he goes, did you know I was going to pick up the cookie, even though I said I wasn't going to pick up the cookie? And she goes, well, would you have picked up the cookie if I hadn't mentioned that there was a cookie there in the first place? You get stuck in this like weird loop of again, we talked about this the last time. It's the bootstrap paradox almost. If you know the future event is going to happen, is the fact that you know it's going to happen going to alter it from happening, or is it definitely going to happen?
Well, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because in Ubik, Pat Connolly, she herself is an anti-psychic or an anti-precog, and she herself says that her parents punished her when she was a kid because they had a vision of one of an expensive vase being broken, but they themselves couldn't prevent it from happening. They could only foresee it.
Yeah.
And so if it's based on Philip K. Dick rules, you can see the future, but you can't change it. So
yeah,
that's determinism. Yeah.
I think that's the universal rule of the future, though. You can't, or is that the past? You can't change the past.
No, you can't change the future.
You can't change the past either, though, can you?
Well, no, you can't change the past, but determinism and free will is present and future.
Because if you change the past, you're always gonna. Or it's just like it's like a paradox where if you change something that was always meant to happen anyway. Yeah. Whatever happened.
Yeah, this is where you get into the weird. So this is where Back to the Future 2 falls apart. If you travel back into the past, you're not actually traveling into the past. That's now your future. So, because if you can change your past, you'll alter it too much that you'll never have made that trip in the first place. So what you're actually doing is you're doing a branch, like a multiple universe thing. So you go back into the past to kill your grandfather, you branch off and you kill your grandfather, and then you can return back into your timeline. The only reason that can happen is because you never actually went back into your actual past. You kind of went into your past future, an event that was going to happen and happens differently. Yeah. You can't go back and kill your grandfather, because if you did that, then you're not there, so you don't go back. You get stuck in that.
Your grandfather would have to have died back then for you to be able to go back and kill him in the first place. You just
but in which case you wouldn't have existed to go back to kill, so you'd never happen. So
we could be here all fucking night, man. Shit.
Time travel stories are very hard. It's why in Duplex you're only 1 second in the future, because I was like, I'm not fucking having this argument.
That's what I mean. I love that, the 1 second in the future version. I fucking love that.
That was lazy writing on my part. I was like, future information coming
still
back.
Genius though. It's still a genius little twerk.
And I love how each chapter sort of introduced with like an excerpt of an interview, or you know what I mean, like, and it sort of builds up, you know, and you talk about this could be an issue. You know what I mean? There's no work.
I did that because I have another sci-fi book that I'm thinking of writing, and to kind of change the style from, like, Filthy Henry is very comedy fantasy. So for my sci-fi stories, I think I'm going to have those little bubbles at the start of every chapter to kind of just differentiate between the two styles. And then, as somebody said, it helps them kind of envision the worlds beyond just the story, because they touched on things that weren't actually relevant to the chapter. It was just like this weird blurb, or this couple used the machine on birthdays and special occasions. It built out the world for them on ancillary levels, which was good that kind of worked that way, because that was the kind of idea behind them.
I tell you what, though, it's terrifying, isn't it, the thought of writing another book? Like, Jesus Christ, I've just finished one, for fuck's sake.
As long as the idea is there, though. As long as not forced into doing it.
The idea and the execution are two completely different experiences. I think I've seen a meme on Instagram that made me laugh, where it had like a child looking all hopeful and happy saying, me when I get the idea. And then it had the miserable child, me trying to actually write the idea.
That's me. That's fucking me right now. I've had the same ideas since I was a fucking kid, man. They're still not out there in the universe yet, but they will be.
I had an idea for a short story I want to write called The Good Dictator. And it's about an independently wealthy man who lives off grid and comes into town one day to get a burger, but he's completely blissfully unaware of the COVID restrictions and this, that, and the other. And he's got no smartphone, he's got no email address, he just wants to have a burger. And he's so irate with all jumping through all these hoops, he ends up just buying out the restaurant. All right. But then because of that, he then has to buy out the health and safety agency. He had to buy out all the other things. And before you know it, he ends up buying out the whole fucking town just so he can get this burger. And he ends up becoming a dictator. By the end of the story, he ends up getting his burger and walking out into the street, and there's this angry mob that beat him to death.
Jesus, it goes dark pretty quick, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm just giving you like the 30-second summary, but that's the idea I've got called the Good Dictator. All he wanted was a burger.
Brilliant. You got to write it.
Well, oh yeah, there was one thing I wanted to bring up to you. So I was looking at like languages and stuff, because obviously we're going to see the evolution of language. We were talking earlier about how things are getting truncated and made smaller. It's going to end up like George Orwell's 1984's Newspeak, where everything's just abbreviated. There's no adjectives anymore. There's no romanticizing of the language. It's just to the point, pragmatic speaking terms. And I was looking at it. I remember someone telling me about there was once a language created that was going to be a universal language, and it's called Esperanto, created by a Polish guy back in 1887, intended to be, well, it was never officially adopted. That was the issue with it. I thought that'd be cool, isn't it? But then you've got English, you've got Mandarin, Cantonese, whatever.
Yeah, so
Spanish.
I remember I was 16 when that came about. And you could learn it as an optional module in secondary school. And my best mate went into it. And to this day, the only sentence he can remember is "Le Hunde Bueno," which apparently translated into "the dog barked," which is a really weird sentence to learn.
Spanish.
That's it though. That's what he said. It was like, basically it was like a weird version of Spanish. And he was like, this is going to go fucking nowhere. There's no way people are going to bother their whole learning this. They'll learn English because it's spoken everywhere. Like you could be dropped into the Amazon rainforest. Chances are somebody has, bumped into
someone
knows hello.
Exactly.
Thank you. Yeah.
And that's
whereas
it.
like Esperanto is going to go nowhere.
Yeah. And well, and that's it. And there's not that many people speaking it. When you learn another language, you want to be able to interact with the natives of the language or that country or that culture. Me learning French, I went to France. There were French people. I could speak to them.
Yeah.
Made it fun. I'm not going to learn some fucking language when no one speaks it. I mean, I was looking at other languages as well. There's some sort of weird upper German dialect spoken by only 34,000 people in certain parts of America and Canada.
Still a lot of people though.
It's weird though that it's in America.
Well, funny enough, right?
Yeah.
A little bit of trivia. German was going to be the official language of the new frontier, the new fucking land of America, what became the United States. It was almost going to be German.
How was that?
I have no fucking idea. I wish I'd read up more on it.
Yeah. Let me bring up this really interesting topic, but I have no follow-up.
How was it work, man? I was just fucking writing shit down. Hopefully you won't ask a follow-up question on this one.
What are your plans?
Here's some info. I don't know if this will fall flat on its face, but it was a really abstract conversation I was having with someone, right? So I yawned in front of one of the receptionists and she was like, "Oh, don't yawn, you just set me off." She started yawning, right? I thought, wouldn't it be funny, based on this whole multiverse theory, if there's infinite versions of this going on, wouldn't it be funny if there was another universe like this, reality like this, where instead of yawns being contagious, but it was farts that were contagious? Wouldn't that be funny? Just, oh no, you're going to set me off. Oh, and then the whole meeting starts.
I thought you were going to go a completely different way with that. I thought you were going to go multiversal yawns. I thought you were going to go like you yawn, she yawns, and then in the multiverse, she causes you to yawn. It was like echoing that way. But I was like, no, you went with farts. That's
totally caught me off guard.
If there are infinite universes, there's got to be another version of this universe where it's just contagious farts. It's just the law of physics.
Yeah, and Jane Silent Bob won an Oscar.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You've never read the Long Earth series then, have you? Terry Pratchett and another guy whose name escapes me now for some strange reason. But the whole thing is about parallel worlds.
Discworld.
No. So this is a different series that he wrote.
Right.
So it's actually quite clever. Somebody one night releases online a design for a machine called the Stepper. And it's described as a box with two wires and a knob that twists in one of two directions. And it's powered by a potato. And when you twist it, you step to the left or you step to the right. And there's worlds then, just infinite worlds spreading out. And this one is the only one that people appeared on. So all the other worlds are empty and they're all slightly different. And like the further away from Earth Prime you go, the bigger the changes are. Like, so the moon is missing on one of them, or it's like an ice age and all this kind of stuff. But it's just with your fart thing there that just popped back into my head. Like, thank fuck maybe the long Earth didn't have that problem to deal with. Because
that's what I mean. It would just make meetings so much more interesting. If like someone in a meeting let one rip, and next thing you know, everyone's fucking farting.
Excuse me, Martin. I'm about to let rip. Oh God, fill it.
And you know what? Farts are very much like snowflakes. Each one is different, isn't it? And all come in different shapes and sizes, don't they? Or different molecular compositions or something. I don't know.
The dudes that can like rip loud ones.
Really?
The fart multiverse theory. I mean, what else would be funny? Like multiverse, like you just got to think wacky shit. I mean, I know we're going down that sort of Rick and Morty territory, but what else would be funny? Like things that are really kind of benign, but they just become a thing in another universe, a parallel version of this reality.
You've never read the Chronicles of Amber by Roger Zelazny, have you?
No, I'll write it down. Like Chronicles of what?
Chronicles of Amber. So there's two sets based in the same universe. So the Chronicles of Amber follow Corwin, and then there's another set that follows his son. I can't remember what those ones were called. But what they have is it's all multiverse based stuff as well. But the royalty in the story live in the what's the word? It's meant to be center. Fuck it. They live in the center of the multiverse, and then all universes are kind of just like shadows of them. And what they do is instead of going and getting a beer, they can just sit down and they can send out like their magic into the parallel universes to find the perfect cold beer, and then they pull it back to them. And it was just like, it's just a weird concept. It's like, I want a beer, so I'm going to like reach 54 universes to my left. and then
that happens in an episode of Rick and Morty where they want to get pizza, but the pizzeria is closed. So he goes into another alternate dimension where the pizzeria is still open.
Yeah,
exactly, they were just these pizzas were just laying there on the side. I just took them. I was like, yeah, that's cool, man. That probably already exists if there is some sort of really futuristic trans-dimensional species out there. That just your microphone's gone off. Sorry, Derek, your microphone. Oh, there we go. Oh no, was that Sean? Was that who? I don't know.
No, I think it was me. I think I moved something.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, that'd be cool if that existed. Maybe that's why, like, shit happens to us. You fall over or something goes wrong. You don't know why. Maybe some sort of trans-dimensional alien fucked with you. Why your car keys go missing? Why, why your Cambo?
That happens a lot. When you put something somewhere religiously in the same spot, but then one day it's not there, you're like, no, this ain't me.
Yeah, it was you from another dimension thinking, fuck, forgot my keys. I'll just go 40 dimensions that way.
Borrow this one.
Borrow this key, I'll bring it back. But then he finds out there's a different key lock. I don't know. Fucking hell. My mind is blown. Reduced to rubble.
Should we wrap up and let you get some rest if you're getting this frayed?
Yeah, we'll wrap up, man. We've got some great content anyway. We've been going on for over an hour and a half, man. So it's awesome. And I really appreciate it. You know what I mean? It's
no problem.
It's always good having you on. I'd love to have you on again soon enough. And I'll let you know how I get on with thanks for your advice on the what to do with the self-publishing and all that, because that'll be happening first week of July.
Yeah. Before I forget then, look up a thing called Story Origin.
Story Origin.
So it's a really cool tool. It was free for a while, but he's charging money for it now, but it's kind of worth the money. I think it's like £70 for the year, £70 for the year, but you get access to newsletters. So people basically put up and say, like, I'm going to be doing a newsletter to all my followers. I've got 500 followers, and it's going out on the 1st of August, and it's targeting comedy, dark urban fantasy, and sci-fi. So if your story fits into those genres, you can say to them, well, do you want to do a trade? And you give them a link to your book in the Story Origin app, and then they link to you and you link to them, and you can get more readers that way, kind of pulling in. You can also sign up to advanced reader copy groups. So to get those reviews, the way when you go onto Amazon or Goodreads and you're like, my book is only out a day, but he's got like fucking 50 reviews. How the hell do you manage that? It turns out it's these ARC groups. So Story Origin just has like loads of these ARC groups, and it's just, you just go into them and you just go, this is my book, this is what it's about. Anyone interested in reading it, please let me know. And some people come to you and you just go, grand, all you need to do is give it a review. Here's a copy, and
Yeah.
you give them digital copies. You don't give them physical copies.
Right. I've got Story Origin written down. What was the other one? Advance what?
Story Origin is actually, it's got this ARC arc in it. It's part of the feature that they do.
Okay,
so
okay, I got you. Cool,
if you just sign up to Story Origin, it's really good. Because I think I mentioned it before on the previous episode. Myself and two writer friends of mine, we do a small indie publishing house, and we use Story Origin for like all of this kind of like arc and promotional stuff. It's just really good. And so if you're starting out, couldn't recommend it further.
Yeah, it'd just be cool to have something out there that friends and family can buy and read and check it out. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
exciting times. This is the year, and then a couple of months from now, I'll move on to the next project.
we should already be starting the project now.
Yeah,
I can't start it now, man. I just need a month, and then I'll go for it.
Nah, I take 7 days off between books.
Really? You're like Stephen King. Like last night, you smoked 23 cigarettes.
And a quart of whiskey.
We still that joke.
I'm acutely aware of how limited our days are, so I like to try and get as much done as I can.
Yeah, well, like I said, I look forward to hearing about your new projects, how it's going, and all that. So keep us updated and all that.
Cool, yeah. And this again, man, pleasure talking to you. Great chats.